Hi, folks, and welcome to Job Board Geek. It's the podcast about the business of connecting employers and candidates. I'm Jeff Dickey-Chasins, the job board doctor. I'm one of your hosts, and the other host in another place on the planet is Steven Rothberg of College Recruiter. Hey, Steven, how are you doing?
I am great. I am spending the month of January in Tucson, Arizona, where the highs are generally in the low 70s, and there is nary a cloud to be seen.
I hate you.
You
I'm in
know,
Iowa, and it's
just
0 degrees.
just just
So-
just line up. All you haters can just get into a big line. I really don't care.
Yeah. See, Stephen and I are both from the Midwest, so we can talk about weather for the next 25 minutes if you want us to, but I don't think you want us to. So, anyway, we have a great guest on today, Dom Jackman of Escape the City. He's got a really interesting story to tell, and I think they do some very cool things. So I'm looking forward to that. But first, I wanted to talk a little bit about something that I thought was rather odd that happened recently. Snagajob went out and got a $65 million loan. And this is not too long after they sold off their ATS and their onboarding service to another company. And the whole thing of a mature job board like Snagajob, which has been around for a long time, had been rumored to be planning to IPO it a number of times, and that has basically, as far as I know, been really embedded in the hourly job board business. That it would be going out for a loan at this point just seemed kind of odd. It's like, they're fumbling around on the couch and pulling out the pillows and seeing if they can find some extra change down there or something. I don't know. What do you think, Stephen?
Well, like you say, they have long been one of the leaders in the hourly space, and they've pivoted a few times. I knew that the founders, Sean and Tennille Boyer, I think they sold the
Mm-hmm.
company roughly 5 years ago, something like that. And the new folks came in, I think it was about 3 years ago. They tried to kind of pivot to Snag, but get rid of the whole Snagajob moniker and have it be kind of an app for hourly hiring, almost like
Right.
Uber, but for hourly hiring. Um, from what I've heard, they just didn't get any traction from that,
Mm-hmm.
pivoted back to their original model. So the good news is, if you've got banks or others willing to lend you $65 million, that's a feather in your cap. They're not going to do that if your business is failing. Um, on, Also, the debt versus equity, certainly for startups, getting equity is a usually a more common path to raising money.
Right.
But the
Right.
advantage of taking debt is that you don't dilute your ownership. And so if a year from now or 5 years from now or whatever they exit, whether it's an IPO or an acquisition or something, then the owners today won't have lost a big chunk of their ownership. Um, it is odd, I feel like I've sort of seen this movie before with some
Mm-hmm.
other relatively large job boards taking on a big investment. And then a month or 3 months later, what you find out is that it wasn't really new money. It was replacing old money. It was a refinancing of existing debt
Right.
or
Right.
equity.
Yeah.
Wouldn't surprise me if that's where we end up here. Maybe some of the owners had lent Snagajob a lot of money, and now they've replaced their own personal loans with loans from banks or something along
Mm-hmm.
those lines.
Yeah. That's much more of an in-depth analysis than I was able to give it. So kudos to you, Stephen.
So I earned my big paycheck here because us
That's
podcasters, we're just rolling in it, baby.
it's insane. 65 million. That I wouldn't even get up in the morning for that. So um, anyway, so yes, our guest today is a fellow from England, from the UK, I should say, Dom Jackman, and his site is Escape the City. And Dom, welcome to Job Board Geek.
Thanks very much, Jeff. Great to be here.
Yeah, I'm glad that you are here. I was wondering if you could just sort of give us sort of an origin story about Escape the City, because I know it's definitely a different type of site from your average traditional job board, and maybe also tell us where you came up with the name.
Yeah, sure. So, escape the city for it means something slightly different for people kind of based in London. So, escape the city is capital T, capital C, and the city is referring to the financial square mile of London, where lots of corporate um, organizations live and recruit lots of people. And so the idea is to help people out of that rat race, that corporate rat race that people go into after university and realize that actually there's more to life than working for a huge company and want to do something different. But when they get to that space, it's often quite difficult to figure out what your options are. And so 12 years ago, me and my friend Rob were in that position ourselves, and we wanted to scratch our own itch. And so we wanted to find out what interesting jobs and or opportunities were available to us. And so, as kind of young professionals, we were disillusioned with the rat race and wanted to go out and do something that mattered to us and the world. And then for us, it didn't really feel like there was a community out there for us. So we try to make it, and I'm still trying to make it 12 years later.
Yeah, but it sound it's I think one of the things I always talk to my clients about. I know we done a little work at one point. Is the importance of branding. I think most job boards fail miserably at branding themselves, and I think this is one of the places where you guys are really superb at that. I mean, the name is unusual, it's catchy, and it also really describes what you're all about. So I think that's great.
Oh,
Um,
thanks very much.
yeah, yeah. So um, the other thing that I am curious about is when one of the things that struck me when I first went and looked at the site was the many different ways you engage candidates. It's not just job postings. You
Right.
have courses, you have essentially blog postings, you've got stuff on events, you got all these different things. Did that happen over time, or was that something that you thought about right off the bat?
Well, it's kind of been added to over the years, and actually now we're kind of scaling back how many we're doing, and we're trying to keep our focus. And I think one of the hardest things that we've always struggled with is focus. And we had, like you said, we had events and programs and short form programs, long form programs, and we've done so many different things. We've done we had at one point we were doing holidays, adventure holidays to help people out of the
Oh,
city
wow.
and find. We've had alternative careers festivals and all sorts of weird and wonderful things, and that variety has really worked, but it's also come at a cost. And I think that the cost is that we've kind of spread ourselves quite thinly over the years, and now
Mm.
we're trying to get back on the focus. And we were a small team, and we raised a little bit of money 10 years ago, but really only enough to kind of get us out of the traps and get some our website behind us. But we've really bootstrapped it from day one, apart from that injection initially. So we're not a big team, and it's difficult for us to compete with organizations who got loads of funding, and so we're a minnow in comparison to lots of others.
Yeah, so you're not total jobs, is what you're saying.
No, I mean we're not even some of the people who I would describe as our like competitors. I don't know if you've heard of them. A company called Otter in the UK. They've come out recently. Got loads of funding, and like we can't compete with their acquisition channels. And we're basically kind of competing with similar user demographics. So just don't have the cash for that. So you have to be creative.
So robbing banks is always an alternative, I suppose, but that might not be the best. That might not be the best
Yeah,
path to raising money. It tends to get you into
Yeah,
more
no.
trouble than it's worth. But
That
Yeah,
was not legal advice, by the way, Dom. So
okay,
it's
cool.
the co-hosts of the Job Board Geek podcast neither condone nor anyway. So
right.
Dom, one of the things that Jeff and I were talking prior to the recording is your B Corporation status. We had another guest on recently that had also gone through that process. And for the listeners who aren't familiar, and I'll let you kind of explain more, what it is, why you've gone down that path. It basically is like a certification or a good housekeeping seal of approval. Like this organization not only tries to make the community better around it and treat its employees, its customers, its vendors, other stakeholders well, but it's proving that. It doesn't just say that it's doing it, it's actually proving it. So talk with us if you can about the decision to incur those costs, the time you have to spend, the money you have to spend to do that. Whether the idea to do that bore out, is it something that helps you with marketing to candidates, to marketing to employers, to both? I think it's really fascinating that more and more organizations are starting to look at ways of not just saying, "Hey, we're family friendly," but proving it.
Yeah, no, absolutely more than happy to talk about it. The B Corporation, B Corp came to us in 2013 when they were about to launch in the UK, and actually said, "Well, do you want to be one of our founding UK members?" And for us, really, it's just important to like kind of we talk a lot about progressive organisations, and we're trying to help connect people into those progressive organisations. So it's important for us to walk the walk ourselves and say, well, we know what it means to be a progressive company, and we're trying to do it ourselves. And so really, it wasn't really a business decision. It was more like these are our values, and we want to be a good company ourselves. And so let's start. And the B Corp is probably my favorite framework for like assessing what a good organization looks like in today's world. And it's not perfect, but they've got a pretty good, a decent framework and a measure for it. And so I was really up for getting behind it. And so there was no business decision really. It was more like I really think that's a good thing to be doing. And then the cost of it it isn't really relative. It's a lot of time, but not too much money. But then subsequently, it's kind of really caught on, and in the UK, it's getting ever more popular every year. And just pleased that we're still able to recertify and still call ourselves a progressive company.
So, Dom, the decision to become a B Corp, was that done for? Have you found that that's helped you with marketing? Do you communicate that to the employers that are using your site, to candidates that are using your site? Or is this really just an internal, let's call it a compass, helping your team when you're reaching a crossroads? Should you do A or B? You can see what B Corp would advocate for, go down path A. And so then that's the path that you're going to follow. So is it more of an external marketing tool or an internal guidance, both?
I think actually, like looking at, so we've been a B Corp now for almost 8 years, and I think the thing that's got the most value out of it, is actually probably just internal. I think people who we are a really tiny team. There's just 6 of us. I feel like people want to work for a company that is making those decisions, like those good decisions. And so, like from a recruitment perspective, I don't have any data on this, but my hunch is that it's been really helpful for that, because people will say, "Oh, we never have any issues hiring anyone," and it's really easy for us to hire, and that's something that's nice. And I think part of that is that we're B Corp, and people say, "Oh, you go and work for them. They must be doing something well if that's what they're doing." And then from a marketing perspective, that does play into it a little bit as well. From a B2B perspective, it is relatively easy to go, and because there's a good community in the UK now, 400 or 500 organisations who are B Corps, and so we would be able to get in the door of those organizations a lot, I imagine fairly, relatively easy, especially because we've been quite an established B Corp. We were not just ones who've kind of come along in the last year. We were there well, we can say we were there at the start, part of the furniture in the UK for the B Corp community. So that's quite nice, and that means that people know us because of that. And then there are lots of other opportunities around it. Some like B Corps that come up with being a B Corp, or like co-branding stuff that we would never be able to afford to do. Just thinking on the fly about this. So like last year, we a big bank in the UK. We're Escape the City, but then now these banks are coming up as being B Corps. But this one is a good bank. They had they've got this office in London, and they put all of their fellow B Corps on their window, and put it in a big advert in the paper. Now, obviously, these days that didn't make much. Difference to our numbers or anything, but it was nice, and it was a bit of a co-branding exercise that we would never have been able to afford otherwise. So a mixture of internal and external, but mostly internal, really.
So I have a question for you, Dom, about challenges, and I say this. First of all, I'm thinking about, I know that you had been looking at different types of technical platforms for your job board for a long time. And then you ended up doing what some people do, which is, well, I'm just going to build my own. And, if my understanding is that you're done with it now, right? Pretty much that it's built and it's running and everything's fine. Is that true?
Yeah, Jeff, this has been a journey. Like, I don't know, we've been swapping emails over the years about this. It's funny. I remember when we started this idea of, we'll just create a job board, or we'll just create this community around trying to connect people with these opportunities. And I thought, job board, how difficult could it be?
Famous last words.
Oh my gosh! Like, it has been the bane of my life. The technology part of what we've been trying to do, because we don't have the native tech skills in the team. So that my co-founder and I were both non-tech, like semi-technical, but not developers. And it's always been our Achilles heel, and so the last 12 years has just been that we've never really been able to solve that. And I can talk at various different lengths of the story of it, but in a nutshell, we are now on our iteration number 6 or 7, and this one is a thing that I've built half of it myself. I've built the back end, and then the front end I've got a couple of developers to help me out on. So it's a bit of it's a mix or hybrid of no code software tools with some development around it. But yeah, it's all custom built, and mostly to do with our own specifications, and we've played around with off-the-shelf solutions and over the years, and custom solutions in the early days, and all had varying success rates with them. But the technical one is a question that I'm sure I've talked to your people about a lot. But that was one that's been the hardest thing for us.
Yeah, I don't think you're alone on that. I would say the conversations that we had about platforms I've had with many clients, and my general advice to startups, to people that are starting up now, is use one of the off-the-shelf platforms.
Yeah.
Build your audience, do what you need to do, get used to running a job board, and then move into a custom platform if you need to. Some people never do. Some people do. I mean, you guys do a lot of different stuff on your site that it would be challenging for, a lot of the off-the-shelf platforms to support. But it's just, I'm glad that you're at the end of the road right now for the foreseeable future. So that's good news. How did the pandemic affect you guys, and if it did affect you, are you out of it now, or what's up?
Yeah, it was terrible. It was really terrible because we do a lot of our obviously our revenue. So um, before the pandemic, we had two revenue streams, and one was like the employers, and they'd be paying to post jobs, classic job board model, and then the other one was we ran programs, and those programs were in person, offline programs to help people start businesses, like basically quit their rat race and start businesses, and then also find career direction. And we've been doing that. And basically, the revenue was split 50-50. We were taking, like, I'll be totally honest with the revenue deal. So we were basically taking like $500,000 in revenue, in job board revenue, and 500,000 on with the school. And we were, and both models were, one was more profitable than the other. But then we kind of got a little bit burnt out by running the programs because there was just the sales cycles and everything else, and they were really exhausting to run at a really high quality the whole time because we were also delivering them ourselves, rather than just like white labeling them and someone else was delivering them. So we were delivering all this content, and we had like 2,000 people go through them. And I just like the people who were working on it were burning out. So we were like, we need to find a different model. So we were trying to transition that model off to online. And then at the same time, the job boards has always been a good like revenue generator for us. And we made the decision in February of 2020 to stop doing the school. And then like the week later, the pandemic hit. And I was paused doing the school, and then we'd find a model. And so then the pandemic hit, and was like, and then our revenue. So we killed one business, like paused one business, and then the other business went down. I'm not joking. Within a week, it went down 95%. So
Yeah.
we had a team of like 10 or 11 people at the time, and our revenue that was really, really predictable every week. I just went overnight, and then it didn't really recover for, I would say, 5 or 6 months. The nature of our business is that we work with small businesses, and so businesses under this like 20 people, and they just obviously all shut up shop. No one knew what was going on, and so they shut up shop, and we had lots of people looking for jobs, but no jobs on the job board. And so we were trying to. It was on life support, the business and the job board, and we were just down to a skeleton crew. And I was also migrating another website, and a big web migration going on. So COVID was pretty bad, and but then obviously the market has switched around. So lots of employers now posting jobs. But I don't think we are probably back up to say 90%, 95% on the job board side. But our bigger issue now is the job seekers there are just too many jobs and not enough job seekers, and people's aspirations have changed, and so people want to work more remotely, and so companies are struggling to catch up with that. And so we're in a good position in the sense that our whole brand is about like doing something different and working on your own terms, and so the post-pandemic should play into that nicely. But it's going to take a while, as you know, it's going to take a while to kind of rebuild members and job seekers and candidates, and at least our tech is not kind of falling over all the time, which it was doing like 2 years ago. So there's one less plate to spin there, but another plate to spin that I wasn't envisaging was going to be an issue. So all in all, it's been a pretty dire 24 months.
Yeah. But it sounds like you guys are well positioned. Like you said, your brand is exactly what a lot of people are going through right now. It's like, I'm tired of my old job. I want to do something new. I want to do something different. And you answer that need. So,
and as travel starts to come back too, I think you're well positioned for that. I think that's one of the things when I looked at the kinds of jobs that you have on your site.
Yeah,
a lot of them are very well suited for people who are, say, in New York or in London or in Hong Kong or whatever, and they want to go and work someplace else.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you're doing right now, like I'm doing right now. I refer to as working remotely from working remotely. And it doesn't have to be from, an apartment or an Airbnb. It can be working for a company in, in Lisbon, and having that different experience, which I think that plays incredibly well to Gen Z. That they're not looking to climb that corporate ladder and be there for the next 50 years. They want a life of experiences. So, boy, I'm bullish on your business model.
Thanks, Steven.
Also, Steven, you really like Lisbon is your go-to spot whenever you talk about working remotely somewhere. You always bring up Lisbon, and
I've never been there, but it is on a short list.
It is basically the go-to spot for remote workers in Europe. So I can see why you go to Lisbon.
Yeah. Well, listen, Dom, it's been great to have you on, and our listeners can't see this, but I can see that you're all bundled up against the cold because Dom is in the French Alps right now, walking the walk, as it were, for his job boards. Right. But anyway, thanks for coming on. And if any of our listeners want to get in touch with you and chat with you, how can they do that?
Yeah, sure. Just shoot me an email, dom@escapethecity.org, or check us out on at escapethecity.org.
Great. Well, thanks again.
Thanks, Jeff.
Steven, if people want to get in touch with you, how do they do that?
They can email me, Steven, Steven, at collegerecruiter.com. Dom, it has been a pleasure. And if you hear a knock on your door later today, that might just be me saying, hey, I could do with a little bit of a French Alps experience.
Well, you're welcome anytime, Steven.
I guess I'm just going to stay in Iowa because that's what I seem to do. But anyway, that's it for today's episode of Job Board Geek, the podcast that focuses on the business of connecting employers and candidates. Please be sure to subscribe to us via RSS feed, Apple, Spotify, Google, Pocket Casts, any of those things. Just click the subscribe button on the Job Board Geek website. This is Jeff Dickey-Chasins, and you've been listening to Job Board Geek. That's all for now. See you next time. Thanks. Bye.